We are starting a whole brand new series today, and I am very excited about it. So we are going to be looking at the things Jesus said. So this includes stories, parables, teachings, lessons, healings, miracles, all the different things that he said. And it is going to be awesome, and we're going to learn so much about who Jesus is and what he did when he was on earth. But before we can learn about what Jesus said in his ministry, we have to look at what God said to Jesus. So we are going to read a story. So we know that Jesus was born at Christmas time is when we celebrate it, and he was born in a manger. And then he grew up and he did some things, and then he became an adult. And this is when his ministry started. So there was a man named John who was most likely his cousin, and he was baptizing people in the river. And he was saying, "Make way, the Lord is coming. The kingdom is here. The Lord is coming." And so he would baptize people in the river. John would pray over them, and then they would get all wet, come out, and it would represent being made clean and new. So one day, before Jesus' ministry had started, he went and he found John at a river, the Jordan River. And he said, "John, I want you to baptize me." And John was like, whoa, I know who you are. I shouldn't be baptizing you. You should be baptizing me. And Jesus responded, "You need to baptize me so that we can fulfill all righteousness." So remember, righteousness is being right with God. So even though Jesus had never sinned or done something wrong, he wanted to make himself right with God. And he wanted to show us what we have to do. We have to make ourselves right with God. So Jesus goes into the water with John the Baptist, and he gets baptized with him. And he goes all the way into the water and gets all wet and comes out again, showing that he is now cleaned by the water. And then all of a sudden, the sun comes out and the clouds part and a dove starts flying down. And God's voice comes from heaven and says, "This is my son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased." And God was happy and pleased that Jesus took this step before starting his ministry. And his ministry is to save the world. So before we can learn about what Jesus said in his ministry, we have to look at how he started. These things that happened are starting to prepare the way for Jesus here on earth. So he goes and he gets baptized to be right with God and to be made right with God, so he can go and show the people, "Hey, I am who I say I am." And God saying, "I am well pleased with you," is God saying, yeah, he's who he says he is. And then the Holy Spirit coming upon Jesus and shining on him is saying, I've given him what he needs to go do the ministry he's about to do. Because Jesus was who God had promised. Way back in the Old Testament, when we had been talking about King David and King Saul and all these kings and prophets, they were promised a king who would reign forever. And Jesus is that king. He is the one that God promised. And so now he has come and he is about to start his ministry. He is about to start telling everybody about God and showing everybody who God is and letting them see God on earth through him. So what do we learn from this story? We learn the beginning of what we need to be able to go and share Jesus. We need to become right with God. And sometimes that happens through being baptized. And we need to have the Holy Spirit inside of us to help us and to give us strength. Because that's what this is all about, is that Jesus comes and he does ministry and he saves the world and he shows God's power and he shows who he is and who God is and he tells everyone about it. And then he tells us to go and do the same. So as we learn about these stories and these things, the things that Jesus said, we're going to learn that the last thing he said was for us to go and make disciples, for us to go and tell other people about Jesus. And the more we learn about them and read about them and study them, the more we will know in our heads and the more we can speak to other people because they'll be in our heart. So now it's your turn. Take some time today or this week to talk about baptism, to talk about this story. Share your own story of baptism with your children and just get the conversation started. And then 2, take some time to create, play, do a drama, write a story about what is happening. How did John feel? How did the crowds feel about what they were seeing? Be creative. And then 3, take some time to pray together. Pray for this new series that we are embarking on about learning the things that Jesus said. Pray for the hearts of our children and ourselves about this story, about how we can be made right with God. And pray that this new series will help us to see Jesus and get to know him even more. That's it for now. We'll see you next week. Bye.